Racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. In America, where I live, racism has evolved throughout the years to become less prevalent and surface level while still being extremely problematic and hurting a multitude of minority groups. Japan, unlike America, is extremely homogenous, which has undoubtedly resulted in a much different viewpoint and culture around racism. In an effort to explore how the Japanese see racism, I decided to analyze the stories they create and publish in the form of animation. Just like any other storytelling medium, anime has the responsibility of covering sensitive topics like racism with an educated and realistic point of view. To see how well anime does this, I analyzed the most popular anime of all time in One Piece and the fishmen that inhabited seas. In a piece of fiction, the first step to understanding why a group is being oppressed is to look at how they differ from the majority. One Piece's fishmen and merfolk display a unique appearance looking like hybrids between humans and a variety of sea creatures. Humans always like to divide people by their characteristics, so it makes sense why they would view the fishmen as different from them. When combined with the fact that the average fishman is 10 times stronger than a human and also has the ability to breathe underwater, humans began to feel threatened and fear seeped into their minds. Blinded by fear of the fishmen, many humans decided to paint them as a lower class of people and have them banished to the deep sea. Many times during encounters with humans, fishmen would be treated like animals, as well as raped, killed, and sold for exorbitant prices. Because of this, fishmen tend to stay below water and in their only refuge called Fishman Island, which is extremely hard for humans to reach. While the current situation for fishmen is undoubtedly terrible, it is important to note that not all humans hate fishmen and many are sympathetic to their cause. The problem comes in the fact that the celestial dragons, which are the humans that rule the world, absolutely despise fishmen and wish for them to remain subjugated forever. Now that we've analyzed who the fishmen are and why they're oppressed, it's time to look at how they fight back. In One Piece, there have been multiple people who have fought for a better world for fishmen, such as Queen Orihime, Fisher Tiger, and Straw Hat Luffy. Queen Orihime wished for the coexistence between humans and fishmen and preached this constantly to the masses, successfully gaining support in her endeavors. Unfortunately, this soon fell apart as Fisher Tiger turned her people against her with his belief that humans and fishmen wouldn't be able to coexist. Despite this major setback, Orihime continued to practice what she preached, and when a wrecked Celestial Dragon ship arrived at the entrance to Fishman Island, she treated them with kindness, saving their lives. After a tense situation with the Celestial Dragon Don Quixote Michogard, she was able to eventually convince him to take her to Mary Joie so she could bargain with the world nobles and ensure Fishman Island's future safety. Surprisingly, in the most recent chapter of 1086, Don Quixote Michogard was crucified for his beliefs supporting the fishmen. Now, in sharp contrast to Orihime, Fisher Tiger experienced a much worse meeting with the Celestial Dragons. Being enslaved by them for many years had changed Tiger dramatically and solidified his views on fishmen and humans. Additionally, Tiger also felt a strong conviction to return to Mary Joie and free all of the slaves he was held captive with, even if they weren't fishmen. After completing the ultimate taboo of climbing the Red Line, he was able to succeed in his goal, instantly becoming a legend of fishmen and slaves all across the world. Things were going good for Fisher Tiger, but they wouldn't be able to stay like this. After returning a former slave to her home, he was betrayed by the locals there and reported to the Navy. With no way out, Tiger exchanged his life for that of the slave girl and was shot multiple times, eventually dying. Tiger could have been able to survive by taking blood from a captured Marine ship, but he refused, unable to accept the thought of surviving on blood that was tainted with humanity's hatred for fishmen. Tiger was a very complex man and struggled with his own demons while attempting to understand humans and keep innocents out of danger. He wished people like Queen Orihime would see the difference between him and someone like Arlong, as he truly did want peace. Queen Orihime would eventually die at the hands of someone inspired by Arlong and the Sun Pirates, which Tiger was the captain of, and she left the world right before she could finish her work solidifying an agreement between fishmen and celestial dragons. Many years after the death of Tiger and Orihime, Straw Hat Luffy would come to Fishman Island and free it from the grasp of the radical Horty Jones and the Emperor Big Mom. Now, under his protection, Fishman Island is beginning to communicate more with the rest of the world and has attended major events like the Leveille to communicate with the world government and other kingdoms. Altogether, the portrayal of racism in One Piece is fairly similar to the real world and gives an accurate idea of how racism can be justified and used to oppress a group of people. While the fact that fishmen are a different species from humans is a bit on the nose when compared to the racism in our world, it's still adequate enough to explore this deep topic and allows for the discrimination against fishmen to be easily understood. While doing my rereading for this analysis, I was overjoyed to see that the enslavement of fishmen was a major plot point of the story, as many authors tend to shy away from the topic of slavery. Slavery is one of the most dehumanizing things that can be done to a person, and the fact that fishmen are specifically sought after as slaves says a lot about the world they inhabit. To justify slavery, a complete denial of humanity has to take place, and this communicates to the audience that discrimination and bigotry runs deeply through the society of One Piece. Another important thing One Piece does is that it refuses to treat fishmen as a monolith. Great examples of this are Fisher Tiger and Oda Hime, as one is very much akin to a black separatist, while the other one is more akin to a Martin Luther King Jr. These contrasting opinions add nuance and more conflict to the situation, really spicing things up and giving us much needed complexity. Without the difference in opinions, it would just be a simple and boring us versus them scenario that doesn't live up to the greatness of the story. In conjunction with this point, I was also impressed with how Oda portrayed the idea that not all oppressed people are good people. Arlong and Horty Jones are genuinely horrible people who use the oppression of their race as excuses for their actions. Many authors would be afraid to put people like them into the story because they interfere with the idea of a good group versus a bad group. So I commend Oda for picking the harder but more interesting option. All in all, One Piece approaches racism with an educated and realistic point of view and successfully portrays it in a fictional setting. Next time you're consuming one of your favorite stories, look a little deeper and see how well something like racism is portrayed. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out one of my other videos as well.